your reaction to the young man really quieting a lot of critics with what he did against Atlanta.
Okay, look, I thought he looked great on Sunday. To say anything other than that would be so disingenuous and so looking at things through a lens that supports your argument, whatever that may be, that it would be ridiculous. So I'm certainly not going to say that. I thought he was fantastic on Sunday. I wrote about it at denversports.com. My 3 stars of the game were Bo Nix, VJ. His defense was great again because that Atlanta offense has a lot of talent, and they did nothing. And I thought Sean Payton was the other star. I thought it was Sean Payton's best game as the Broncos head coach. I thought, you and I have talked about it a lot. You watch, the good teams in the NFL, whether it's Kansas City or Detroit or Buffalo or even just the good offenses, right? The Rams and the Vikings, they seem to come up with plays where guys are just running wide open. Like Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the league, and nobody's within 15 yards of him. Like, how does that happen? The scheme of those offenses and those teams, at least a few times a game, it's like, man, that's well done. And we hadn't really seen it since Sean Payton got here. And we saw it over and over and over again on Sunday. The Nate Atkins touchdown was so well designed. It was a thing of beauty. The last one, the last touchdown of the day, the little Jordan Humphrey touchdown, was the same kind of thing. The 2 wide receiver screens were very well designed, very well executed. I could watch Quinn Miners go run over a defensive back on Troy Franklin's touchdown 100 times in a row and still not get sick of it. It was great. So Bo Nix went out and executed a great game plan to perfection. He didn't miss a throw, didn't make a mistake. Did he do anything, though, that I sit there and go, there's not 40 guys who could have done that? Maybe 2 or 3 throws, maybe.
The one to Vele over the middle in particular.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that was phenomenal.
I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I'm almost convinced. And to be someone, after what we've seen in this town for 8 years, right? And it's Mark Schlereth wanting to give Trevor Siemian a multi-billion-dollar contract after 4 games. It's Paxton Lynch coming in as a first-round pick. It's Joe Flacco still in his prime. It's, the list goes on. The Russell Wilson deal, for crying out loud. I'm hesitant to buy into another quarterback, but I'm getting close with Bo. And here's the only qualifier I'll put out there, and this is not me being a hater at all, because he was great on Sunday. You and I talked about it last Wednesday night. Are we sure Atlanta's any good? I think Atlanta stinks. And, okay, so now he's beaten every team in the NFC South, all of which I think are dreadful. The Raiders and the Jets. 6 bad teams. Until I see it against a good team, Will, I'm going to be hesitant. That doesn't make me a hater. It makes me the most cautious, overly wounded Broncos fan on the planet. That's all that's happening here.
Okay, but I don't think we should put Atlanta in the same sentence with New Orleans and Carolina.
They lost to New Orleans the week before.
Yeah, but they were also 6-4 coming to Denver. Kirk Cousins is a guy who tends to win 10, 11 games.
Motion, Will, and cut up field before the snap. I would yell at my 12-year-old team for that.
I mean, but you're the one who told me last week, Atlanta beat Philly. That was a good win too. Like, come on. Like,
no. We went through their games, and you said they beat Philly, but it was after Philly came back from Brazil, and they lost by 20 at home to Seattle. They lost to Justin Fields and the Steelers. I mean, they've had some brutal losses. They beat the Cowboys, who stink.
But don't style points matter? 38-6 is a beatdown.
Yes, 100%.
The Broncos didn't just win 20-17 on Sunday. They kicked the snot out of the Falcons.
Agreed. And when they played Carolina, New Orleans, and Atlanta, 3 bad teams, and I'm going to put Atlanta in the bad team category. Kirk Cousins, I'm kind of over the Kirk Cousins. He's going to turn into he's a legit quarterback. He's not.
He was fun to watch on quarterback.
He's made a lot of money.
Remember the Netflix show? I know you watched Quarterback. Yeah.
He was good on that.
He's taking out the trash after losing a playoff game at home. Yeah.
And listen, I think Kirk Cousins is a super good dude. I really do. And he works his butt off, and I think he's a really good teammate and all those things. But would I want him to quarterback my team? I would not. I think that division stinks. And but they've beaten those 3 teams. You don't have to apologize for a win in the NFL. And you can only play the teams that are in front of you. The Broncos would have to apologize for one of 2 things, given the fact that they played the NFC South. Had they lost to one of those teams, except for maybe Tampa, But Tampa won that division last year with a sub-500.
But that was when this is the other part we disagree on.
They beat the Lions and they had the Eagles the next week. It's the trap game. Whatever.
And they still had Mike Evans. They still had Chris Godwin. And the Broncos went on the road and smacked them. They had
all those guys last year too and went 8-9.
New Orleans and Carolina stink. Atlanta and Tampa Bay are middle of the road NFL teams.
You would have to apologize if you lost to those teams without a doubt. You would have to apologize, Will, if you snuck by those teams. And the Broncos went out and dominated all of the last three. They really did. They dominated the Bucs too, so they dominated all four. From start to finish, they dominated all four games. So it's a little bit like if you're a really good college football team. If you're Alabama playing Mercer last week, you're not gonna prove much by winning. But if you lose, oh my God, the sky is falling. If you win by 7, holy cow. If you go out and win, and I don't even remember what that score was, but if you go out and beat Mercer 62-10. Okay, job well done. You did what you're supposed to do. That's what the Broncos did. I just will look.
The Atlanta Falcons aren't Mercer though, James. I think you're selling Atlanta a little bit short here.
Okay, we'll see. Hey, wild card weekend. Let's put some dough on the Falcons. I'm sure you're lining up to do that.
No, I'm not. But can I tell you my other little bone to pick with you 6 minutes into this thing?
Why? Because I'm being somewhat reasonable?
You can't do the whole Bo hasn't beaten anyone thing because you're just going to kick that can down the road next week if he plays great against the Raiders.
Correct.
And you're going to kick that can down the road if he plays great against the Browns. And then we got a bye week. And then here comes Indy, which I'm sure you're not real impressed with.
Correct.
So Bo Nix's next chance to impress James Merilatt is December 22nd in L.A., more than a month from now.
Well, they go to Cincinnati.
That's the following week, December 28th, 29th.
Okay, so L.A. is a game that will matter. So yes.
Right. So to answer my question, you're saying Bo Nix cannot impress you until December 22nd.
Yeah, correct. That's correct.
That's kind of a bleak outlook. I mean,
the guy
just put up video game numbers last Sunday, and apparently they don't matter.
It's not a bleak outlook at all. It's not. You have to pass a test. These have been, it's been fill in the blank, and there's been one choice. When you went to the ballot a few weeks ago, I don't know if on yours there was anywhere somebody was running unopposed. I'm like, how much stress did that guy have on election night?
Yeah. You have to be pretty bad at your job not to win.
Right. You're the only candidate on the ballot. That's a little bit what the wins have been. That's a little bit what the next 3 will be. Against the Chargers, that'll be a big game. That'll be for second place in the division. That'll be for playoff seeding. There will be a lot of Broncos fans in the stands, and I'm not going to use that as a way to dismiss the victory because I think the Jim Harbaugh-led Chargers are good. But then you have 2 games after that where you've got the Bengals. That's the best 4-7 team going, but are they going to be they could have shut down Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and everybody else by then.
They might. And honestly, that'd be good for the Broncos because
great.
Joe Burrow has 27 touchdowns and 5 picks, and the QBs who have done that over the last few years are like Tom Brady when the Patriots went undefeated. The fact they're 4-7 and their quarterback is playing this well is stunning.
It's crazy. And then the Chiefs at the end of the year, who knows what they're playing for. So there is the possibility, Will. Let's say they're 6-5 right now. They could go 6-1. Is that right?
No, they only have 6 games left.
5-1. 5-1 the rest of the way. And we still wouldn't know if Bo could play because he would have only the loss would be the Chargers. It's layup, loss, freebie. 3 layups, a loss, and 2 freebies.
Okay,
we wouldn't know.
Here's where I think you're wrong. How many quarterbacks over the last 10 years who have worn a Broncos uniform could even make a layup? Case Keenum couldn't make layups. Joe Flacco, Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, Paxton Lynch, Trevor Siemian, Russell Wilson. At least Bo's making the layups.
Well,
if you want to call him that.
You know what? That's a very good point because last year, Christmas Eve at home against Bailey Zappi and the Patriots was a layup. I don't put that all on Russ. Russ got him back in the game and made it interesting. He was phenomenal in the fourth quarter.
He also screwed it up in the final moments.
Did he? Really? They let him go cook, and he got him back into the game with 16 unanswered, and then Sean goes back to wide receiver screen to make it 2nd and 12. But I don't want to make this a Russell Wilson thing. But that was a layup. We all talked about it a year ago of okay, they'll win this. You start plotting the Broncos' path to the playoffs, and we all said they're beating the Patriots at home. So Raiders on the road, Browns at home on a Monday night, Colts at home after a bye. should be win-win-win.
You should be 9-5. You should
It'll be extremely disappointing if they're not. But I want to see Sean Payton make it through 3 layups, and I want to see Bo Nix make it through 3 layups, and I don't think that makes me a bad guy.
All right. I get it. But it's just the excitement in Broncos country.
I'm excited.
Is the highest it's been in years. And
I'm
I mean
pumped.
years. And you're telling me these are layups after Bo Nix does basically nothing wrong and everything right and makes spectacular plays and throws for 4 touchdowns against the Falcons. Like, if he had thrown for 6, would you give him some more credit tonight?
No, it's still the Falcons. It's still the Falcons. They still were down 23-0 at home to the Chargers. So when you go out to LA, do you look better than you did in that game? That'll be a test.
All right, but this is like the kid brings home a test and gets a 99, and the parent's like, well, why didn't you get 100? Why didn't you get the bonus question, get 102? Like,
well, did he? Well,
at some point, 99s are A+. Bo Nix played A+ football against Atlanta.
Good analogy. Did he bring home a 99 in calculus or in remedial math?
Calculus.
No, he didn't. The Falcons are freaking calculus? It's remedial math.
Geometry.
Good.
Geometry.
No, they're not geometry. Fine. You know, you remember, you're much younger than me, so you may not have had to do these pressure cooker tests because, you know, by your point, they didn't want to make any stress. Did you have to ever do the test?
I'll let that slide.
Where you had 100 problems, like addition problems, and you had 5 minutes to do it? Did you
Yeah.
have to do?
Yeah,
Okay.
I used to dominate those. I used to do the multiplication tables in 3rd grade, and the whole class would watch. I was so excellent at it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what Bo Nix just passed. He passed one of those.
Well, the rest of the class couldn't do it, so there was a reason everyone came and watched me.
That's why the Broncos are the best JV team. The Jets couldn't pass that test, right? The Raiders couldn't pass that test. The Jaguars couldn't pass that test. It's really good he can pass that test. That doesn't mean he's going to be working at NASA putting people on Mars.
James, this guy's about to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He has closed I wrote about this at denversports.com yesterday. He has closed the gap tremendously on Jaden Daniels, and the way things are trending, Bo is going to win the award. 6th quarterback taken off the board, 12th overall pick, Offensive Rookie of the Year. You kidding me? Outplay Caleb Williams, outplay Jaden Daniels, outplay Drake May. Penix can't get on the field, although he got on the field in the 4th quarter here. McCarthy's out for the year. Like, no one could have dreamed this up on April 27th, the day after the first round of the draft, okay? But they just couldn't have.
Let me ask you this. You got to pick your quarterback for 2025 and beyond. You taking Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix? Okay. The silence answers the question.
No, because I was thinking about it.
The silence answers the question.
I was thinking about it.
We can make it that, here comes Bah Humbug, and let's make him the bad guy because he comes out and just points out some realities and just doesn't wear the orange-colored glasses and just guzzle orange Kool-Aid. But you'd take Bo?
I'd have to think about it.
Would you take him over Caleb Williams?
Absolutely. At this point, absolutely. Caleb Williams looks like, and I was dead wrong on Caleb Williams. I called him Patrick Mahomes 2.0, but Caleb Williams looks like all the criticism about him was accurate, okay? Looks like all of it was accurate. Dude can't handle a single lick of adversity. He just can't.
Well, he's also surrounded by a bunch of bumbling idiots.
Well, he's got DJ Moore. He's got Keenan Allen. Would they both?
Do you want to hear me say something positive?
Sure.
I think Sean Payton has done a tremendous job of developing a rookie quarterback. And none of us knew if he could do it because we hadn't seen him do it. And I think he's done a tremendous job at it. He really has. And it takes a while as a play caller when you're dealing with a new quarterback and new skill people and just a new system to figure out, hey, what works, what doesn't work, what are they good at, what are they not good at? And we all do want instant success. And we're all like, well, he's Sean Payton and they won a Super Bowl. Why aren't they not 9-2? And I fall into that trap too. So I'm pointing the finger at me when that happens.
Wow, save this audio.
But if you just look at the body of work for where Bo Nix is 11 weeks because they haven't had a bye yet, into his rookie season, it's way ahead of what anybody would have expected. Because I did not think I would be sitting here on, what is today, November 18th, 19th?
19th.
November 19th saying, yeah, I think he has a chance to be the quarterback of the Broncos for the next 10 to 15 years. I didn't think that would happen. So because I've moved from he's going to not be that guy to I'm darn close to just saying, yep, he's the guy. Let's go buy jerseys and, get the guy working on the statue. Like, that's a huge movement in 11 weeks in less than 3 months. I think that should be celebrated, not, oh, he's the bad guy because he's not just, doesn't have his orange pom-poms out like the rest of the Denver media.
It is a huge movement, especially in the world of James Merilatt. You tend to be stubborn at times. So for you to acknowledge that you may have been wrong about Bo Nix and he is trending in the right direction and doing it in a big way, I applaud you, my friend. I think that's a big step.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I also have firmly admitted I was wrong about Deion when I jumped off the bandwagon during the Nebraska game. I somewhat came around on Michael Malone and Jared Bednar when they won cups and championships, but I do think I was ultimately wrong on that. I can move. I can be swayed. You can. Let's talk about that path to the playoffs. I fired this up this afternoon at denversports.com. James, I think it boils down to 4 teams for one spot in the AFC because I think the Chargers are in, man. They got to 7-3 by beating Cincinnati on Sunday Night Football. The Ravens 7-4. Yeah, I get it. The Broncos are technically 1 game back of Baltimore, but it's really 2 because they hold the head-to-head tiebreaker. James, I'm stamping tickets for Kansas City, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston, the Chargers, and the Ravens. Okay. I really do think it's 4 teams for one spot. Now, the good news is the Broncos are the leader in the clubhouse, and I think they're the leader in the clubhouse in a pretty big way. But I do want your thoughts on the 6-5 Broncos, the 5-6 Colts, the 4-6 Dolphins, and the 4-7 Bengals. Do you agree with my assessment that Baltimore, Denver, Indy, Denver, Indy, Miami, and Cincy, not Baltimore, Denver, Indy, Miami, and Cincy are 4 teams battling for one playoff spot? Yes, I do, because I do think those other 6 are in there, barring a crazy injury to somebody or something none of us can foresee. Those 6 are going to make it. Those are the 6 best teams in the AFC. I think of the 4 teams you mentioned, I think Cincy's probably the best team, but they're behind the 8 ball at 4-7. They essentially have to win out.
They probably have to get to 10. Now, if you beat the Broncos and you both finish 9-8, that's a little scary as well. But yeah, Cincy has shot themselves in the foot. And believe me, I tweeted this on Sunday night, man. That was huge. Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers did you a favor. And I can say that because I'm never really going to cheer for the Raiders. I'm certainly never going to cheer for the Chiefs. I don't have the same vitriol and hatred toward the Chargers as I do the Raiders and Chiefs. So I was absolutely fine rooting for an AFC West team on Sunday night.
Yeah, no doubt. And the reason I say that about the Bengals is you look at how they went toe-to-toe in the 35-34 game against the Ravens, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, if they get a flag on a 2-point conversion, they probably steal that game. They got jobbed by the officials.
And you compare that to how the Broncos played against the Ravens the week before, losing 41-10. And it's a week-to-week league, and crazy things happen. I get all of that. But if you just took those 2 games against a common opponent, the Bengals look like the far superior team. But they're 2 games back. So, yeah, you make up a game by beating the Broncos head-to-head, but you need a lot of help, and you probably have to win out. I think the Dolphins are a little bit scary because with Tua, they're pretty good. Without Tua, they're awful. They're a bad football team. How long is he going to stay healthy? I hate to say that. We're all, hoping he's able to stay upright and stay safe. But you also can't ignore the history of the guy. Mm-hmm. That on any given play, it could be the end of his career, the end of the game, the end of 5 weeks, whatever. I think Indy stinks, so I think it's a 3-team race.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Indy being at 5-6, you would have liked to see the Jets get them. I know Indy took that game late in MetLife this past week, but maybe the Anthony Richardson thing coming back in does give them some life. But guess what? The good news, you have Indy here at home on December 15th. That is a de facto playoff game in a sense, right? Like you win that, you get the 2-game bump that we've been talking about because you get the game in the standings, plus you get the head-to-head tiebreaker. So,
you go through those 4 teams, right? The Broncos are 1, so there's 3 other ones. The Broncos play 2 of the 3.
They do. They do not have Miami on the schedule, but they will play Indy and Cincy before this year wraps up.
So if you take care of business against those 2 teams and don't stub your toe against, I don't know, the Browns or
This weekend in Vegas.
You go.
You can't overlook this game. I know the Raiders are terrible. You still can't overlook it. You haven't exactly had a lot of success in Allegiant Stadium.
If you take care of business in those 2 games, 9-8 probably get you in.
Probably, because you hold the tiebreakers.
You'll have the tiebreaker, and how do those teams get to more than 9 without running the table, and they're not going to.
Well, Indy's got Detroit this weekend, for example.
Exactly.
Like
so
go Lions.
If you win those, if you beat the Raiders, the Browns, and the Colts, you're 9-8. You'll have the head-to-head matchup against 2 of the 3 teams that are your closest competition for the wild card. I don't know how you don't get in unless Miami goes on a crazy run and wins out.
Well, and the good news is Miami's got to go to Green Bay on Thanksgiving night. They've got to go to Houston on the 15th, and they've still got San Francisco at home. I get the Niners look like they're falling off, but I still think they have one more run in them. All 3 of those losable games for the Dolphins. Even if they get to 10-7, hopefully you can get to 10-7. Miami's the wild card in all this. They really did kind of come out of nowhere because they had their bye early. That helped them. They've won 2 in a row, and you're right. They're a totally different team with Tua on the field.
Michael Malone thinks this is an easy run for the Broncos. Like, I mean,
come on now.
You can't hit more green lights than this.
James, do we have to go over who they beat to win a championship?
It's 3 bad teams.
James, they beat Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler.
Give me their seeds.
I don't care about the seeds. I just gave you 7 great players the Nuggets ran through to go 16-4 and win a title.
It's the second easiest path you can possibly have. If
I don't care.
5 instead of a 4 in the second round, it would have been the only way they could have.
I don't care. You still had LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the other side, and you swept them.
Okay, so it's but Will, it's bad team, bye, bad team. Pretty good team on the road, but no home field advantage. It'll be half Broncos fans. And then 2 teams that are either done because they're out of it or done because they're resting their guys, right? Like, that's a pretty easy path. All I'm saying is it sets up very nicely for the Broncos.
You know what's interesting is I do think we've reached the same conclusion. At this point, as we sit here tonight, Tuesday, November 19th, 6:22 p.m., it'll be disappointing if the Broncos don't make the playoffs.
100%. So when's their last game? January 5th or something like that?
It's the 4th or the 5th. It's a potential flex game with the Chiefs either that Saturday or Sunday.
Okay, so if we're doing this show on Tuesday the 7th and they're not getting ready for a playoff game,
it'll be disappointing.
We're going to be asking questions saying, what the heck's going on?
What went wrong? Because you know what could have gone wrong? The Chiefs' loss could have derailed the season. And I am so glad they answered those questions in an emphatic way, James, because you know who didn't answer those questions? The Chicago Bears gave up a Hail Mary, and their season just went totally off the freaking rails.
That's a great point. And I think that's a testament to Sean Payton and his staff. You and I talked about showing the video of all of his tough losses last week, and I'm like, I'm not sure that's the best way to turn the page. Like, clearly he's got his finger on the pulse of his team, and by and large, other than the Ravens game, they've come out ready to go, ready to compete, flying around. I like the way they compete. I like the way they play. I like the way they respond to adversity. And, most of the credit in those things goes to the players, but the guy pushing the buttons gets some credit too. And I thought it was Sean Payton's. He's had 28 games as the Broncos head coach. That was by far his best performance. I don't even know what would be second. It was so light years ahead of any other game he's had as the head coach.
Yeah, Sean was great. Bo was great. The Broncos were great. It was nice to see, especially getting that bad taste out of our mouths from a week before. All right, don't forget, Denver Sports is on YouTube. Would love if you could go find us there, like a video, comment, and most importantly, subscribe so you never miss a video. Please do that for us. Denver Sports on